You are now listening to the Perceptive Readers Podcast. Good day, Perceptive Readers, and welcome to this special Bluegold Iron Presents topic called A Rainman Value. A Rainman Value. With this being a Bluegold Iron Presents topic, you know I will also express myself further in the book that is being written, and you can actually follow along with just some of the excerpts you see on the jamespoeartistry.online excuse me .online website. That's jamespoeartistry.online website. And yes, I am James Lynch, the author and creator of that website, which has migrated now from when you put in the URL of parkbooks.com, which, you know, that's the domain that I had it under, my trade name for since 2010. Well, everything is now being slowly but surely being transferred, to line up with the domain systems to get you to the correct web page that you're supposed to. So it happens automatically for you, and at least it's supposed to happen for you automatically. And so if you have any problems, you can also contact me at buymeacoffee.com, James Poeartistry. That's where I accept questions and also much needed support, you see, for new equipment, etc. And so I thank you for your interest in that and helping out in that way. Now, what I want to talk about in this Bluegold Iron Presents A Rainman Value. See, it's special because one, the official James Poeartistry podcast, you see. Now I've only been putting out really one major topic a week. That's one of my adjustments you most likely noticed for this podcast, because there are just so many ideas. You know, I was musing yesterday and even the day before. I had so many great ideas that I told you I don't write them down no more like I used to. I try to keep them in my mind, and I forget about the majority of them. And yet, the reason why I believe I forget about them is because every day there's something new, and sometimes it's actually building upon the idea that I already had. And so, if you go back to my reference of Trade Secrets podcast, you will get the whole understanding of why I had to adjust my modus operandi in a good way, in a positive way, of building my productions and getting my, my creativity out there. Hopefully the ones who truly see the value that's been in it over the years. Always been very valuable. And this topic that I'm talking about today, called A Rainman Value, is a subject I talked about some years ago. But now I'm going to elaborate on it even more. See, this is all part of it. I actually purposely just left certain thoughts or experience out of the topic because I knew, as you've heard me state before, I would probably revisit it in the future. Now, there's still even more to it, but just listen to this. Listen to this. You know, jokingly, I got the sage to the side, okay? With me, jokingly, okay? You know, Paul once said that when he was a child, he used to think as a child. But now he was a man, so he think now as a man or an adult, you see. A spiritual one at that, okay? And so, Paul learned a lot from his teachers. You can even call them sages. The schooling that he received in spiritual matters, and also his background and his citizenship as well. You see, he could certainly grasp the new understandings and growth that he was experiencing from Jesus Christ. You see, when Jesus appeared to him on the road and continued to inform him through different ways, especially through the Holy Spirit, about these matters and the understanding on a level that, again, people had to ask Paul because it just seemed so complicated, even spiritually, you see, for some persons at times, well, for the majority at times, that through Paul's training and then Jesus Christ's guidance, you see, with the Holy Spirit, Paul would just make things clear, you know, publicly, the matters that God wanted him to make clear. And so he did that. Now, he had also persons who opposed him. And you can just imagine from Paul's experience of friendships, and also most likely you see persons who lost confidence in him. At times, maybe people call them betrayal or what have you. So maybe there were some persons that one moment, you know, they thought highly of him, and then next thing you know, through associations or what have you, they didn't think as highly of him. And Paul was known, you see, from the scriptures, that he was zealous, and yet with that zealousness, sometimes he would speak his mind in a way. He'll call somebody a whitewashed, grave or what have you. A burst of anger. At least we know of one recorded incident, even with a fellow brother. You see what I'm saying? And so Paul's zealousness certainly had some passion with it. Okay. Now, at the same time, you could see that Paul actually wanted to respect everybody, but especially even persons' positions. He actually really showed that respect overall. Now, remember I told you I got the sage with me to the side. See, this is something I really want to share. You know, sometimes you can tell people how they need to approach you, how they need to deal with you. But I tell you what, it really does go into the statement that I made from the Bible about, you know, when I was a child, I used to think and speak as a child, but now I'm an adult, I think, because sometimes people in their different levels of growth, you know, I want to use the expression, they just play too much. They just play too much. And they don't know when to stop, even when it's very, very important that they do, you see. And that comes along with growth. That's why things that persons might do in adolescence, they want a bit more do, you see, as grown adults. You see, if it's not even the maturity in itself, it is just because they know better. And they know when to go or to stay, and when to act on it. That's still part of maturity. So, what happens to some persons at times, and this is one of the reasons why, just like when Paul apologized, I got to tell you, I feel the same way about certain matters. I like to state that because when persons get older, and this was talked about not once, but I'm sure just talked about all the time. See, some grown-ups, when they become elderly, then all of a sudden, there are some in the younger generation that apparently, the feeling is, just don't have no respect for the elderly, don't have no a really strong understanding, or should I say, even care enough to realize, this person that's past this age or that age should bit more be out there throwing ox around and cattle and all this other stuff. Now, granted, you still see a bunch of them even up in their 80s and things of that nature that can do it. But that still isn't, in general, for everybody, you see, once they get up in those age brackets. And they also continue to deserve what they have put into a system that has been established this long, that, okay, when my eyesight starts going down, when my strength is no longer there, or what have you. But during the years that I had all of that I was putting into this system, some people say SSI, Social Security, or what have you, then it certainly should be there. That is another thought, okay? And I'm going to show you just how important that is to keep that in mind. So with that being said, you do want to honor persons up in age, whether they're your mother or father, you see, or not. And so, if this is the case, then, you don't want to go off on one here or there, or what have you, even though, we should treat everybody with respect. But see, here's the thing. Sometimes the way that this world works and organized, with people, I guess you would say, have to rely on secondhand information, more than what we should during important matters. I tell you that much. But in this day and age, it's like we have to take people's word for it a lot. And boy, it has hurt a lot of us as well. And so sometimes, even in the relating of messages, you see, you can actually receive a person who's, just barely out of graduating and things of the nature, or what have you. So, they're still in those years of strength and youngness, where at the same time you would have then some adults that's older than them that may tell them a thing or two, or what have you. And it just kind of goes according to, look, I'm your elder, you gonna respect me, and might say a couple of choice words at the younger person that, what, they wouldn't bit more say to somebody who was older than them. Isn't that interesting? But it happens like that. And so I'm sharing that with you, because then sometimes you find out, you mean when I said this to this younger person over here, that person was really just relating a message that came from this decades old wisdom sage, or what have you. And then the person may say, may end up saying, yes, that's who said it. And then the other person may say, then why didn't you tell me then? And then the person might say, because I was told not to tell you. And so then on one hand, you get into this dilemma, just mentally, going through your mind that, oh my goodness, I didn't mean to say that about, or to this person that I really respect. uh, I wish I wouldn't have said that. And so then the young person may talk to you then. So you mean to tell me, for everybody that you call idiotic, said that their mother and father should be ashamed of them, saying that they're even female dogs themselves, that if they were under this certain age, or if they were over this certain age, you didn't mean it that way, but because they're under this certain age, you meant it that way. And so pretty much, yeah, I did. But you know, it's all love. And it's all, at times, life experience and imperfection. So let's continue on to what I mean by this Bluegold iron presents a Rainman value. See, there was a movie some years ago, some decades ago, with Tom Cruise and also Dustin Hoffman. And Dustin Hoffman played someone who had autism. So, you know, there was just certain reactions to stimuli that no matter how many doctors or what have you. Now, I don't even want to mention prescriptions because see, the way this was still dealt with, there's just certain imperfections that come along with the state that we're in at this time. And so Dustin Hoffman, who played Rainman, had autism, yet he had this ability with numbers. And he wouldn't forget a number. He wouldn't forget the 52 cards in the deck. He could add just like that. I mean, all sorts of numbers just like that. He just had the ability to do everything like that instantly. Yet, when it came to interactions with people, when it came to even touching, he couldn't deal with it. It would send him into a frenzy. If you tried to handle him, that's the word I want to use, handle him in such a way that no matter what thought you gave to it or what have you, there were just certain things that Rainman in his autism state just wouldn't accept and couldn't accept. And so he just had a routine that they set up that had to go by. He watched his certain shows, at certain times throughout the day. If he didn't get to watch this show, you see, People's Court or what have you, at a certain time throughout the day, he would go crazy over that. I mean, he would just literally go crazy. Ballistic, manic, if you will. And yet, when it came to even expressing himself other than in those type of outbursts, he never did do it. And yet, there was these signals still in even his clicks or what have you, something that people learned over the years meant something. If it was coming from him, they knew that it meant something, and that was all he could really give. And one time, Tom Cruise character, Charlie, even wanted to hug his brother. See, he didn't know he had him as an older brother because it's like they kept him locked away from him because of, again, like a charge or whatever that was made against him. That people looked at it as well, I won't get into that. You just can watch the movie, but they looked at him still as a danger then to his own brother. And so anyway, still Charlie was feeling pretty good and wanted to hug him after this great, experience that they had together. And even then, Rainman went ballistic. Or was like, no, don't touch me. He said that don't touch, and it actually hurt Tom Cruise's character, Charlie. Yet he knew, and so he made sure he just kept his hands off him. And he said, all I wanted to do was just hug you. That's all I wanted to do. And yet, with the situation and the imperfection, you see, that his brother was dealing with this type of autism, it just wasn't going to happen. He certainly wasn't going to get the experience, the type of experience that he really wanted from him. Something that would just probably take still years of working with the person, and then even, it may not even happen at all, but they did give some hope, near the end all the same. But this is what I want to continue to share with you about the Rainman value. Even in this very restrained state, you see, mentally, emotionally, or what have you, that Rainman was in, the value that he did contribute to the persons around him, and see, that's what you find out from in the movie, was what I would still say was invaluable. And once the persons fully just understood that, you know what, this is just the way you have to respect his space, you see, respect his way of doing things or whatever, because he's not hurting anybody. You see, he's not hurting anybody. But I'm just adding my extra thoughts in there, and so when they did that, there was just a value that the persons who were not trying to be domineering or dominate Rainman's life and just try to make him fit this way or that way or what have you, they were able to appreciate the value for who he is or what have you. And so there's a wide range, and this is a joke kinda, but there's a wide range of crazy. Okay? So you hear me state, I always say that, I said I'm not insane. You never heard me say that I wasn't crazy. Okay? So what am I continuing to emphasize? This, in our imperfect state, we all most likely have triggers. Every single one of us. Now, I know you may have very good references and people who won Nobel Peace Prizes and stuff. And if you look at the list over the years of some of those, they all became famous names, many of them, especially, in the United States civil rights movements and spiritual leaders. And yet, this is what I'm going to say, and not to even take anything away from them. How did they become like that in the first place? You will hear them express at times not only their experience, but a certain routine, meditation, etc., etc., so that now, no matter what they deal with or what have you or something like that on the streets, then it's like, sometimes like, ooh, they handle that quite well this way or that way. Yet, this is what I'm going to tell you. For some of these persons, what would happen to them if they were not able to continue to do their routine the way that they needed to do it, to meditate in the way that they needed to do it, to study in the way that they needed to do it, to exercise their writing and stuff like that in the way that they needed to do it. Remember, some writers, which are very much respected, I've listened to a lot of those type of interviews over the years, but some of those same writers that people have deep respect for, they still will straight up admit to you that writing saved their life. And so what does that mean? You're looking at this beautiful, respected, smart individual right now kicking out this knowledge to you, what have you. And I mean, you're like, whoa, I got the right type of emotional, base for themselves and everything. Yet, remember all these good qualities that now that you see this person, some people may say character. What I'm here to tell you, you put anybody in a certain type of situation, and eventually, depending on who they are, how much stamina they got, and even it depends on age, they may end up referencing your mama in this way or your daddy in this way as well, if you know what I'm talking about, because they are not able to do what they need to do to maintain, you see, the strength of character in an area. And also, when it comes to imperfections, there are some matters, and that's why I like to use the example of Rainman. We literally got to just leave it in God's hands. We do what we can to empathize or make someone, comfortable, what have you. And that, and seeing in the context that I'm not talking about letting people get away with stuff or what. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is there are still certain agencies in place, and that's what I mean about humanitarian and hospitals and stuff like that, where the role and the duty of these places are to always be in that mindset. I'm here to help. I'm here to heal. Hippocratic oath, if you will. And that's the role. When you're in that role, that's what you do. You don't usurp usurp the responsibilities of those fields and start using them, saying, for other type of agencies that literally go into harsh disciplines and things of that nature, which I won't go into detail on that. But Rainman had value. You have value. We have value. And yet, with the realization, and this does come from reading God's Word, the Holy Bible, there are just certain matters, mentally, emotionally, and certainly spiritually, that we just manage with God's Word. And when He performs a miracle for us here and there or what have you, and root out this, or what we may be dealing with, or root out this other type of emotional trauma or what have you, well, guess what? That's God. Yeah, that's a miracle working on us. But when He does that, see, it's within His realm. In the new world, and even in heaven, when people go to heaven, God immediately heals those persons of such things. And when they go to heaven, you see, they are perfected in body, you see, mind and spirit, you see. And while we're on this earth growing back to perfection, that's just going to take a little while longer. But we at least have the hope and the confidence that God is going to heal us in that way as well. So we realize there are just certain things, yes, there are just certain things even today we have to leave in God's hand. And He certainly has related the conscious being one of them, you see, as well, in the way that people view God. Have a very wonderful day, and I will see you again on the official podcast next week. Keep in mind that James Poeartistry or buymeacoffee.com James Poeartistry actually has a lot of my group exclusives, some that that I will relate in a Telegram group, but then I move them to the support area only. So even though you only get this podcast once a week, you can actually find out that I've made maybe 2 or 3 other podcasts on different other subjects as well. Maybe you would say intriguing subjects that, again, are just for you, exclusive group members or people who support. And all it takes is just $1, 100 pennies, you see, to help in some way. Have a very wonderful day, Perceptive readers. Take care.